But this is the council meeting, June 17th, 2024. We are meeting in provision with policies and procedures from the state of Michigan, from the governor's office here tonight. We will be on tape. So if you want to see this, you can look at the recording tomorrow. It's being streamed live here tonight. We usually have the Boy Scouts here and all the grandparents see the Boy Scouts do the pledge. We didn't bring them out here on this hot night. They're enjoying the summers. But from that, I'd like everybody to stand at this point and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. So some of you are new, most of you are not. You're frequent flyers here. I'm kind of your master of ceremony. When you came in, there's the agenda, and we just went through number 1, Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to go to number 2. I'm actually calling this officially to order right now. And clerk, if you could give us a roll call, please. Thank you.
Mayor Turnbull.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Morosky Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Janetti.
Here.
Councilmember Krenz.
Here. Great. We have a full quorum, and we're so grateful that Sandy is here, our finance director tonight, to keep us on the straight and narrow. George is out of town, so Sandy takes over as the top administrator here tonight. So thank you so much for joining. I know you really wanted to be at this table tonight, didn't you? Yes.
Thank you for the invitation.
You bet. Duly noted. So at this point, you on council, you have the agenda in front of you and the consent agenda. We will approve an agenda and then we'll go back. If there's anything else to add or delete from the consent agenda, I will read all those things off in a little bit, just like George usually does. I will do that for him tonight. So you have the agenda in front of you. As it's in your package, looking for a motion to go forward or any changes or deletions at this point in time. Do we have a motion to go forward with this? Any of you?
Yes, motion.
Okay.
Support.
Okay, we have motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I think we can do this pretty easily. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Okay, we have an agenda. So now here for public comment tonight. If it's something on the agenda, I would ask just wait until that section is on the agenda. We have a couple things on the agenda tonight. It's very unusual. Usually they're loaded. We have a lot of things on the consent agenda. If you're here tonight to talk about 2 different things, one, we have something from Parks and Recreation for the month of July will be Parks and Recreation month. If you want to talk about Parks and Recreation, wait until we get to that section. I will open it up. We're very democratic. Every time we talk about something, you can talk about it. Most municipalities, it's only one time at the beginning, but wait for that. And Derek Smith, our director of that, executive director, will talk about Parks and Recreation. Also, we have a section on Serenity Point where the Randolph drain comes in. We have a drain authority between Oakland County and Wayne County. We're going to have a presentation on that tonight. If you're here to talk about that or have comments, it's not Q&A, but if you have comments on that, I will open it up at that point in time. Really, those are the only 2 things. If there's something else that's on your hearts and minds that you want to share, again, public comment telling us, it's not a Q&A. This would be the time. I would ask that you sign in before or after you speak. I am opening it up for public comment at this point. So if anybody would like to speak, this would be the time. You have to come right up to the mic. And when you come up to the mic, because you're online here, your full name and address so they can hear you nice and loud. Yep. It's all yours, Steve.
Hey, Steve Pecan, 611 Ashley Court. I'm a regular here.
We like it.
We have a potentially dangerous situation due to our closed streets that I observed. I want to address mayor, city manager, council need to address this before it's an unavoidable tragedy. Last Tuesday, June 11th, I was on Main, approaching Main and Center. Within view at the east end of Main at Hutton Street and just outside of the upright bollards was an HVA ambulance with its emergency flashers on. I then headed to the corner where the emergency vehicle was parked. There was no police presence or ambulance staff member near, though it was parked and running. Several minutes later, I noticed the ambulance staff walking on the north side near the marquee or halfway to Center Street. They returned with an empty gurney. When I approached and asked them what happened, they said someone had called 911 and needed EMS for a person in distress. When they arrived, the patient was stabilized and it was determined going to the hospital via ambulance was not necessary. I asked if they would have been able to attend the situation more efficiently, if not for the bollards. They agreed that bollards are an obstacle to an urgent response. There was no police presence and presumably no one could lower the bollards. So it's safe to assume that by the time the ambulance arrived beyond the bollards, nearly a block from the distressed person, that a full 3 to 5 minutes could have passed. Had this situation involved a cardiac arrest? Well, I think we all know what that means. I spoke with someone from the Northville Fire Department last summer near the upright bollards just at the end of center and inquired about their function of the bollards. I was told that each bollard could be lowered with a key in about 30 seconds each. I counted 12 of them, so lowering all would take an average of 6 minutes. I asked who would lower them and they said either the fire department or police. I asked if anyone is stationed nearby bollards at the ready. They answered no. So during an emergency where a fire truck, ambulance, or police are needed, they will have to deal with more roadblocks than just the bollards themselves. Waiting for someone to arrive and lower them, plus the time required to do so, could realistically take 6 minutes or more. So Mayor, City Manager, and citizens would like answers to some important questions. What are the established plans to expedite on an emergency at Main and Center with the streets closed? And number two, have the police, fire department, and EMS rehearsed the situation where the bollards need to be urgently lowered? Number three, do all departments have keys for the bollards, and who has keys for the bollards? Number four, are there established emergency plans for the public to review? 5, is there a lurking liability that could be denied by the city's insurance carrier? And number 6, could someone lose their life as a result of these multiple hurdles? I've left that for the record.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You had 4 seconds. Appreciate that.
Oh, I had 4 seconds.
Yep. We will get back to you, Justin, will, and we have 42 keys to that and only 1 or 2 bollards have to be put down, but we appreciate that. We will get back with you with all those answers, Justin, in the next week or so. Thank you so much. Any other comments? Ms. Johnson.
I'll sign in. Glory Johnson. I'm only going to respond real quick from a citizen perspective. Many times when an ambulance is called, it doesn't get right up to the person. It doesn't come right straight up to the front curb of wherever a situation is. Think about buildings, think about arenas, think about parks, and think about all the other places where an ambulance isn't necessary to drive directly to a potential concern. That's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Better name and address. Anybody else at this time? I think I said Justin. I know it's Dustin because my son is Jason, so I put that J in front. So Dustin, thank you. Come right up. We'll get your name later.
So just wanted to focus out a little on the positive. So
Absolutely.
the other day, one of my neighbors asked me, he said, you go to a lot of city council meetings. Do you think you're making an impact?
I've never seen you.
Sorry, Lenore Lewandowski, in Randolph Street. I forgot that. Anyhow, so in response to that, I want to say thank you to the city who sent out letters to all the historic district residents to let them know about the historic district guidelines engagement session, which is happening Wednesday before the HDC meeting. So thank you very much for responding, because that was something that I felt the city needed to do. It was something I asked for. So on a positive comment, thank you for doing that and knowing that I did make a little bit of an impact by asking that.
Thank you.
So
That was lovely. Thank you so much. Any other public comments? Going once, going twice. I'm closing off public comment. We have written comments that came in today. If they came in before 4, they're up online. If they came in after, they're going online right now. And we got those, didn't we, clerk?
And for the record,
Yep.
I don't have to read the whole thing, they're long, but I could say who they're from and the date.
That'd be great if you would
That's just-
read where they
So and these were ones that have come in since our last city council meeting.
Yes.
So on Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, we received a communication from Cindy Brazen. It was a topic, was about an email and the contents of an email. Kevin Hebert, also on June 4th, 2024, the topic was street closures. And then from Jeff Snyder, today, Monday, June 17th, and the topic was fugitive dust mitigation from the downset. So those were the three.
And you all have that in your package. They'll be online for everybody. If they're not online, if they didn't meet the four, some are online already because it came in before that. So great. Thank you for reading that. What I'd like to do now, I'm going to go through, we didn't used to do this, but I want everybody to know there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes on the consent agenda. I usually have the city manager. I'm not going to have Sandy read all these things, but I'm going to go the Reader's Digest of what's in the consent agenda. Some things will be taken out. We might add to those things and put something on the agenda here in a second. So this is what's on the consent agenda, the minutes for the June 3rd meeting, and we'll circle back, what we want to do with those. Also, accepting the bills, the whole list on that comes from Sandy. That is section B, that's on the consent agenda. Appointments of different committees, which myself and the Mayor Pro Temp, Barbara Morosky Brown, we spent 15 minutes to a half hour with everybody that's asking to be on these committees. We are all set on beautification, but I think we're going to add something for Planning Commission BZA in a minute. D, the approval of the fourth quarter budget amendments. We've had hours and hours and days of meetings. This is the last just approval on that. E, purchase of 6 new shotguns and rifles for our police force. F, purchase 2 radar signs out there. G, authorizing the DDA director to purchase a used GMC Sierra truck from the DPW. It's a great deal. It's way under the blue book, so that's great. H, have additional 35 vanities at Allen Terrace. It's all about Allen Terrace here. Have some floor installation also at Allen Terrace on the subcommittee. We are going to get rid of, I believe, J, K, and L things going on at Allen Terrace because they weren't quite ready, the paperwork. We'll do it on the next one. So those in council know we will look at that at the next meeting. So we'll go to M, special event request for the Buy Michigan Festival is on the consent. Also, special event request for a classic car club that contacted the DDA to come here. That will be on the sub agenda. Also, July as Parks and Recreation Month in the city. We all have the proclamation in front of us that was approved by the township. We're going to hear about how the month is July, and we're all going to rally behind that. You're going to eventually, when we get to that, ask us, that you asked us for the proclamation. It will be approved when we approve the consent agenda. So that's in front of you. Is there anything else I'm missing? Public Works Director to act as an agent on behalf of the city to request Transportation Economic Development Fund monies. So they always don't have to come up to the mayor on that. He knows more about it than everybody else. So those are the things on the agenda. This is the time we're going to add or delete on that. Is there anything that we would like to add or delete from the consent agenda?
Well, as you mentioned, Sandy, if I'm getting this right, you'd like to remove J, K, and L,
Correct.
which all relate to Allen Terrace purchases, and those will be coming back to us at a later time, but
Correct.
so those requests that those be removed. For additions, there will be 2, so I will let the clerk decide how they get lettered.
Okay.
But that would be, recommendation for the appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals, the request, and then also for the appointment to the Planning Commission. We just finished those late last week.
We did.
So if I could add those on, I'm assuming at the end. And then the last is I would like to.
Do you want to add that to the agenda or to that
I'm
C
adding,
section?
no, well, I was just adding it at.
Under the consent, yes. So,
Oh, under consent.
so I would say it's like C,
So I'm making, these are.
part A.
These are changes to the
Yeah,
consent.
got you,
agenda
yeah.
only.
So like section 1, 2, and 3 under C. 1 would be the beautification, which we approved, and
Oh, you're saying.
section
we have
2 would be
subsets. Okay,
PC, and section 3 would be the BCA.
that's fine if
Right,
you want
if that
subsections.
works.
Yeah. And then so we're removing 3 items, adding 2 items, and then I'd like to move 5A, the regular city council minutes, to the regular agenda. There's two edits.
Great. So I would suggest on the regular, we have a really quick closed door. Let's put that in front. So we have one thing on there, the Randolph Drain Authority. That will be the major thing. Let's go. B will be the minutes. And then C will be the closed door, which should be very quick tonight, very unusual for us. It's just parliamentary
That makes sense
situation.
to
So
me.
does that work? So any other changes other than that? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to go forward with the adjusted agenda at this point. Do we have that?
To
motion?
approve the consent agenda and the overall agenda as amended.
Absolutely. Do we have support for that?
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Great. I think we can do this too. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Great. We have a consent agenda and the agenda going forward. So with that, let's go to presentations. If you're following it there at home, we're on number 6, presentations, 6A presentation of the support for Parks and Recreation for the month for Parks and Recreation in the city of Norfolk. It's all yours. Let's let it go.
Good evening, council members. Is this up?
Yes.
All right, good. I just can't hear myself.
Yep.
So
They can hear you at home and he'll
Good.
help you.
I'm short, so it was pretty much in a good spot when I got up here, but thank you. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and is it Madam Finance Director? Is that?
It is today.
All right, good. So
Very pleased to have you.
So across the country, July is Parks and Recreation Month. And so the Parks and Recreation Department has gone to both the township and the city to ask for you to pass a proclamation naming as such. So in case you're wondering how this whole thing came about, since 1985, people in the United States have celebrated Parks and Recreation Month in July to promote the building of strong, vibrant, and resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation, and to recognize the more than 160,000 full-time parks and recreation professionals in our industry. We currently have 11 of those 160,000 folks on our staff here in Northville. So parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Northville. The Northville Parks and Recreation Department plays a significant role in maintaining a high quality of life in the community, improving the health and wellness of all of our citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of Northville. So Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for activities designed to promote active lifestyles. The city of Northville is committed to maintaining and improving its parks, trails, and recreation facilities to ensure they meet the evolving needs of its residents. Northville Parks and Recreation not only provides programming and education activities to our youth, such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education, but is a leading provider of senior services, delivering invaluable resources that promote independent, lifelong learning and a social engagement. So switch to the next slide, please. So this year's theme for Parks and Recreation Month is Where You Belong. So this year's Parks and Recreation Month theme, Where You Belong, celebrates the many ways that parks and recreation professionals across the country foster a sense of belonging in their community by providing welcoming and inclusive programs, essential services for all ages and abilities, and a safe, accessible spaces to build meaningful connection. And I thought what a wonderful picture to put up there, because if you were at the grand opening of our skate park, what an inspiration that was, a community coming together to build an incredible amenity, and what an awesome day it was. So if you walked away from that not being inspired, then maybe we can't help you. And I would be remiss if I didn't add that we do have several members of our department here tonight. So
Please
from
introduce
our
them.
senior division, we have Deborah Davison and Debbie Julianelli Smith. There's a lot of Smiths. There's 3 of us, but I never see them at the family reunion, so we must not be related. So Libby Smith and Bridget Renwick are from our recreation division. So thank you very much for coming here tonight as we celebrate Parks and Recreation Month.
And do we have a photographer out there from Parks?
We do.
I
At the
think
end,
from
I'd
the
like
township.
to,
Okay, at the end.
we have our intern here, Madeline Wiktorowski, who is, she's been helping the Parks and Recreation Department quite a bit with our social media marketing platforms, and she is going to be kind of head manning, if you will. We're going to have a video series that comes out throughout the month of July that promotes Parks and Recreation. She is going to be the one that's going to be heading that project for us. So we're very excited to have her on board.
Welcome, Madeline.
So-
Nice to see you here tonight.
And there is one more slide at the end of that too, if I may.
You have another slide up there, Rob? You will catch up. You just got all excited on that last slide with all those people on it.
Ew.
Oh. And again, we do have the proclamation. You will have that. We've approved it in the consent agenda, so you are good to go. You did that at the meeting for the township last week. Yep,
Yep.
that's correct. Good.
So I can move on, but
Yes.
we're celebrating our why for Parks and Recreation Month. And on the previous slide, there are three pillars that we have identified in our strategic plan that should be in front of you here in the next couple of months.
There you go.
But we create, we connect, and we inspire. Everything that we do within the Parks and Recreation Department is a direct correlation to one of those three pillars. So one thing that we've done through our strategic process is really identify our why. Why do we exist in Northville, and what do our programs and our facilities and what do our amenities really mean to this community? What is that why? Not what we do, but why we do it. So through your proclamation, you're proclaiming July as Parks and Recreation Month. It is an opportunity for our community and local leadership to officially acknowledge the importance of Parks and Recreation and the benefits it provides to the people that we serve. And lastly, and why I identified that we have staff here tonight, if you can put it on your calendars to remember that July 19th is officially Parks and Recreation Professionals Day. So I'm fully expecting flowers and cookies that shows up in our office.
Duly noted, President accepts.
But this year, we are celebrating Parks and Recreation Professionals Day on July 19th.
Great.
It's a day to celebrate all of our dedicated professionals who build strong and vibrant, resilient communities through the power of parks and recreation. So I can tell you that I got into this field over 25 years ago, thanks to my parents being very involved in our community growing up. My dad was on city council back in Durand. He was a volunteer fireman and worked all the time. My mom actually coached my baseball teams. We did not have a Parks and Recreation department there. It was a lot of parent-run organizations. But that drive to be a public servant and give back to the community is something that's been ingrained in all of us as Parks and Recreation professionals. You're kind of, once you find that calling, you really grab onto it. So this is a great way and a great opportunity for all of us to recognize the hard work that our professionals put in on a day in and day out basis to make this an awesome community. So thank you so much for everything that you all do. And with that, thank you for passing the proclamation. If you don't mind, I'd like to have all of you come up front real quick so we can grab a picture with the staff.
We'll do that.
And we can move on with the next business item.
And you too.
Sandy.
We have everybody from Parks and Recreation here?
Yes.
Do you tell us? I think you got enough. I'm ready to click it.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Great. It's good to have fun once in a while there. So let's go on. That was the presentation, 6A, public hearings. We have none tonight. That is a good thing. Unfinished business. We finished all our business, so I'm happy about that. New business, we're going to talk about granting permission to the Randolph drain improvement to cover different services. We have a Randolph drain authority between Oakland County and Wayne County. We're the only municipality in Wayne and Oakland County, so we're working together. This is called Serenity Point. We got $650,000 just for that point from Haley Stevens and the federal government, and we're going to hear a little bit about what we're going to be using on that. I think it should be outstanding. You're going to tell us about all these pools coming down. Why? We have deteriorated the river about 8 to 10 feet, which has deteriorated both sides all the way down. We're building that back up and having different pools that come down. So I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but I did a little bit. Go right ahead.
No worries. Thank you. I'm very excited to be talking to you today about the Randolph Drain Improvements Project. I'll also, as we get into the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things happening in Ford Field Park as well, but this is the key one today. With your support of this project, we are asking for you to grant permission to the Randolph Street Drainage District, its representatives and its contractors to enter and use Ford Field Park West temporarily to perform the work associated with the project that we're going to talk about.
We have a great entryway for them right down that side.
Yep.
Yes.
And then also asking you to authorize the city manager to sign a temporary use letter in a form approved by the city attorney. So the Randolph Drain and Serenity Point Improvements Project takes place in Ford Field Park West. This is the master plan for Ford Field Park. There's a lot happening in the park that we've talked about pretty regularly. The lower right-hand side, you see where the restrooms and access walkways will be pending positive review of a grant, which we are hopeful for. We also have the playground replacement project ongoing, the accessible gateway and bank stabilization project, and then Serenity Point. So Serenity Point and the Randolph Drain project is the very northern part of Ford Field Park West, kind of the panhandle of the park. So next slide. To kind of zoom in a little further, on the right-hand side is a topographic survey of the entire Ford Field Park. It's much too small for you to really see any detail in there, but you can see how there's a lot of real dense lines on the south and the west side of the park that signifies the embankment there. And then if you look at the enlarged graphic up there, you see there's 3 numbers on it, 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 components of the Serenity Point project. This is the Randolph Drain, where it goes under Hutton Street and enters the Rouge River. And the various things that we'll be looking at as part of this project are number 1, which is stabilizing the drainage structure under Hutton Creek. Number 2 is addressing some improvements to the bank itself. And then number 3 is dealing with some issues we have with the overflow structure. Next slide, please. This gives you a little better view, and I love this picture from the standpoint of telling the story.
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
this
a mess.
That's the way it is today. You know, this
in
isn't
one shot. this-
photoshopped in.
Why are we doing this?
You can see the deterioration from where the riverbank used to be, going down about 6 to 8 feet down into those boulders that didn't used to be there below ground.
Absolutely. So number 1 is the head wall spalling and delamination, which is taking place right up against the Hutton Street head wall there. And with delamination, the concrete starts falling off, and then the reinforcement gets exposed. It starts rusting, and it compounds. It eats back into the concrete bank. And so it's very important to stop that process. Then we have the bank erosion, which is number 2 there. And you can see just off of the shot to the left is actually a tree, and there's several trees. And those are the roots from those trees. At this point in time, it's one of the only things holding that embankment in place. And it's hard to tell from a photograph, but that's probably a couple of feet drop there.
Oh, yeah.
So it goes down considerably. And then number 3 is the undermining that's happening in the drainage outlet that's on the underside of the culvert. And just a little bit to the left of 3, you can see kind of a dark line, and that is where that structure has started to be undermined completely underneath it. And so there too, that needs to be stopped and repaired so that that undermining doesn't continue. We don't want that structure to fall in. So several years ago, the River Restoration Task Force submitted a request for community funds to Representative Stevens' office. And the request was to do 4 things in this area. One is secure the stability of Hutton Street. You can tell Hutton Street is right above the culvert, and so it's important to preserve that culvert. Stabilize the riverbank, stabilize the overflow structure, and then help define Serenity Point as well. Next slide. So we've been working with the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's Office, and they have contracted with an engineering firm, HRC, to develop construction plans for us for this project. And so this is how we're going to solve some of these issues. Regarding the head wall spalling and delamination, we're looking at installing a lining in the culvert that will be grouted in, so it will be secured and water won't flow around it, just through it. And then it'll extend the culvert into the drain a little bit further. What that does is it gives room for that head wall to be stabilized and repaired, and then to be armored with stone to protect it moving forward. Now, this is one option that we looked at. There were several other options. All of them were considerably more expensive. And this option was chosen not just because of the price point, though that was an influencing factor, but also at some point in time, that entire culvert under Hutton is going to need to be redone. And so we didn't want to invest considerable funds, i.e. $500,000 in this culvert, if in 10 or 15 years, we're going to need to replace the whole culvert anyway. And so we made the decision to go this route from a cost standpoint, as well as from just good planning for future improvements. Next slide. Bank erosion. I am really excited about this, and you'll see in the next couple of slides exactly why. The way we're looking at combating the bank erosion is to create a series of pools and weirs, so little pools and walls, to slow the flow and direct the water flow. So what this will wind up looking like in heavy rains or heavy water, it'll look like a waterfall as the water is sort of rolling through the pools and over the weirs. But during normal times, those pools slow the water down, and then the weirs direct the water where you want it to go. Now, key to this is, and one of the things the Drain Commissioner's Office is working really closely with the engineers on, is those weirs and other rocks along the edge of the embankment need to be sized and placed in a way that they're not just going to roll downstream when we start to get huge flows. Because within a short distance, we're actually dropping 8 or 10 feet here. So you're planning for that change in topography, as well as trying to plan for those different levels of water flows. So I'm really confident in HRC. We've talked to them a lot about this, and so I'm excited to see this in action. Then the riverbanks will be stabilized with natural rock. Another thing that we're talking about doing here is the rock that's currently on site is going to be salvaged by the contractor and stored and reused in restoration of this. So they'll remove the existing rock, they'll build underneath it with some larger stone, that base that's necessary to hold everything in place, and then they'll put the existing rock back on top of it, so that hopefully that will help it to naturalize and look more like it has always been in place. So that's an exciting component here as well. Next slide, please. And then outlet undermining. This will look at grouting underneath the pan at the end of the outlet, and then also doing some bank stabilization and armament to ensure that that stays in place. The picture on the right-hand side just gives you a little bit of an idea of what that will probably look like, which is that pan with water flowing out of it and then rocks around it. Next slide, please. So, and this is the part that I want to be real clear about, but it's likely to make some people nervous as well. In order to make these repairs, there is going to be some impacts to the site. And I don't want to tell people that there won't be. There will be some tree removals, and that's necessary to get that bank stabilized, install that armament. We are also going to need to temporarily remove that pathway into the park from Hutton Street. And it will be used, the reason it will need to be removed is it's going to be used to access the construction in this area. And that equipment just beats the heck out of asphalt and surfaces. And so in the end, it will be removed because a couple of slides later, I'm going to show you how this project plays into the
Overall
ramp
entry.
project,
Great.
the other project we have
Excellent.
going on. So there will be some tree removals initially. There will also be areas where there's tree protection. You can see a large sort of irregularly shaped area right up against the walkway that will be fenced in. The trees there will be protected. And then there's a second one just on the upper side of that first arrow that you see. There's also some tree protection planned along the neighbor's property to the north. It's a little hard to see, but it's like a little C-shaped protection there. And so that shows you, you know, where we're looking at protecting some
You
of
know
those
that neighbor,
existing
Doug?
trees.
You know, the guy to the north, could be you. Go ahead.
Yes. I am, Doug and I are talking with each other, and we will be putting him directly in touch with the staff from the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's office so that they are fully aware of what's planned and when and what those impacts might be so that we can work with them in partnership. We want to be good neighbors. So the other thing that's planned is we will be having a community meeting. The 4th of July holiday kind of throws a little bit of a wrench into things, but I'm thinking potentially the second week in July in which we start to share some of this information with the community as well. Because again, we want to be upfront with what those impacts might be so that people understand what to expect. Next slide, please. This shows you in the end what this area is proposed to look like. You see the 5 different pools, 4 different sections built with those weirs. You can see the extension of the culvert on the bottom of that slide. You can see where some of the grading is as well. So that's what this is proposed to look like in the end. Next slide, please. Okay, you have to excuse the looks of this. I'm not, I sort of superimposed a bunch of different plans together and drew on some colors. So I'm not nearly as adept at some of the graphic programs as some of the consultants we use. But I think this hopefully does the trick. You can see Hutton Street on the bottom of the slide there, the Rouge River on the top. On the left-hand side is the Randolph drain coming into the Rouge River. You can see how those pools and falls sort of fit in there, how you've got one coming each from the overflow structure as well as the culvert itself, and they kind of step on down to the Rouge River. Then what you can also see on the right-hand side is what we are looking at in terms of a route for the ADA entrance into Ford Field Park. So we're looking at coming in at the existing entrance, but taking a basically a right-hand turn and running that pathway kind of along the embankment and then down into the park. So it'll be in between Roberts Rock and Hutton Street, and sort of tucked in the embankment and then coming on down to meet the existing grade. That was, there's a couple of reasons we're looking at that particular route. One is it gets us the slope we need for handicap accessibility. Originally, we were looking at taking that route in between Roberts Rock and the Rouge River, but what that wound up doing is almost creating like this barrier because of how much we had to raise the walkway up. And it required a lot more fill in the floodplain than we were comfortable with, and that the that we felt Eagle would work with us on. So we needed to look at another alternative. And so we're looking, like I said, at tucking that up into the embankment, preserving Roberts Rock in its current location with a wall around the rock, and then providing a natural crushed stone path of some sort to give you access to Roberts Rock. You can kind of see underneath where the existing circular pathway is. That gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. And what's exciting about this particular approach is I really see it opening up and defining Serenity Point much more than it is right now. Right now, people hear Serenity Point and they're kind of like, where is that? What is that? So with this particular design, it's going to kind of enclose Serenity Point. When you walk in there, there'll be a nice open lawn area. Roberts Rock will be on the left-hand side. You'll look ahead and be able to see the waterfall coming out of Randolph Drain. I think it's just going to make that a usable and just really wonderful space.
Placemaking area.
Yeah, a wonderful space. And then that sets us up for some future improvements as talked about in the master plan. So there is one more slide we're going to talk about, and that's what we're looking at from a cost standpoint. So which the estimate of probable cost is more than we had originally, than we have the funds for. However, one of the things that our dear partner Nancy Darga says is she originally asked for 1.2 million. So the fact that it's only 1.068 is a good thing. But so this is the estimate per the grant and the revised estimate. And that shows you what the community project funding is. That stays the same, of course. I wish it went up at the same rate as the cost estimate does, but it doesn't. And so what that means is the remainder of the cost between what we have from the community project funding and what we need is going to come through an assessment to the communities who benefit from this project. That's the city of Northville, Novi, and then there's two other communities that contribute at a much smaller level. So you see with this change in cost, it's at $316.140 estimated. That would be, I'm sorry, $140. That would be the city of Northville's contribution. And funds do currently exist in the drain fund that would be able to fund this. Now, that does mean that if and when we receive funds for the High Street Bridge, we'll need to look at how we're going to fund that. But there are currently monies available to fund it at this level.
Does that revised total include contingency?
Yes, it actually includes a real high contingency because there's a lot of uncertainties with this project. So we have both a design contingency as well as a construction contingency, and it includes the fees and charges from the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's office. They have kind of a markup on their projects.
Recognizing that Randolph Drain's obviously a partnership with our neighboring communities, do we need an approval from Novi as well? Will they need to go through a similar process and approve the increase in funds on their side?
The Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's Office was going to take care of working with them. And they really try and work with the local communities, but in the end, they do have the ability just to.
They could move
assess.
forward and assess it?
That's when Markham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, when would we have timing to confirm that that's been approved? Just thinking of the
I don't
cadence
know.
of the city engagement, the community engagement session you were talking about in July, and then when we're actually gonna put a shovel on the
I
ground.
don't know. I'll ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions?
Questions for Wendy?
I have a couple.
Sorry.
So one is, we it's understandable, we're gonna lose some trees there, but I saw, if you go, the one that it had a lot of X's on it.
Mhm.
Were each of those X's a tree?
Each of those was a tree, but the size varies.
Yep.
It could be a small tree, it could be a larger tree, it could be a tree that's one that's already halfway
Already
leaning.
fallen, okay.
If you go down there, you see there's a number of trees that are already falling over, some that aren't, super high quality.
Mhm.
So it doesn't summarize the quality or the size of the trees.
The
that
reason,
particular
yeah, and I
plan.
understand that we need to lose trees to do this work. But that's often an area where people go because it's really one of the only shady parts of Ford Field. Is there still gonna be some shade over there?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, there
We're still
will
gonna
be.
retain
Yeah,
trees that are a little
Yeah.
further back?
yeah.
Okay, so that's.
There's sort of, when you go down there and you take the existing route, the embankment is heavily wooded. And then there's a whole sort of stand of trees immediately on your left. Those will remain.
Mhm.
What's coming out is the trees that are up closer to the river
Okay.
or
which-
to the drain.
Which makes sense,
Mhm.
that we'd have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the first. The other is the velocity coming out of that
Mhm.
drain when it's a heavy rainfall, which we seem to get quite a bit of, is
Tremendous.
just
Tremendous.
unbelievable.
People don't realize that when they see
So,
it.
and when I see that it's being extended, which makes sense, by putting that liner in, and it looked like it came out quite a bit.
It did in that particular plan. It looked like
Yeah.
it came out quite a
And
bit.
then, I can just, with the, have you guys seen when it's coming out? It's
Mhm.
like shoots, like you're saying, like, is it gonna shoot all the way
Thus
down
it's
to?
cut down into the road.
I mean.
Well, HRC has done a lot of calculations on the amount of water that comes through there and the velocity, and they take into account the fall as well. And so this has
Thus the multiple
challenged
ponds
them.
going down to
Yeah,
slow it down.
their engineers have had to get creative on this one.
Yeah,
When they ran their initial numbers, they said something like they would need rocks the size of Volkswagens or whatever. And so, but they are comfortable with the way this is designed based on their calculations and the information that they have pulled together.
yeah.
And
But,
so,
yeah, so putting the other liner won't reduce the velocity. That would
No,
have to happen.
no, it's just
upstream.
controlling the
mhm,
Yeah. okay.
side erosion.
mhm,
And it was the velocity, because it's
Yeah.
crazy.
yeah.
All right. Well,
It
thank you
comes
very
through there
much.
really
for
Any other
answering.
comments?
Just, do you think they'll have to close down Hutton for a while?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like the answer to that is yes.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they didn't have to have some sort of traffic control. I can't imagine closing it down, though. What I would expect is maybe limited times where they've got one lane shut down, and so then they have someone directing traffic,
Great.
on
Perfect.
either side. I don't believe they'll shut down the.
I do
road
understand it's
completely.
partial, whether it's a side
That's great,
shoulder, it's
yeah.
next to it, one lane at a time. So if they have to for a small amount of time to get something in, but that's what I understand.
Yep. And I did forget to mention, it looks like we'll be bidding probably in July with construction, late July, August. So hoping to catch it in the driest part of the season.
Excellent.
Well,
Anything else,
good
Deb?
work on that one, Dee.
No, Wendy, great stuff. I think the multiplier effect from our contributions like 3x, 4x. So,
Hmm.
that's how
Yeah.
projects get done here. So fantastic work. Love what you're doing. My only concern is we just got to keep an eye on repairing High Street. I know there's a lot of concern
Right.
from Hillside parents, Ammerman parents,
Allen Terrace.
Allen Terrace families. The optics might be that we're pulling money from a really highly needed project, but also needs grant work to support it because of the high cost of it. I just want to make sure that, we have a plan and we can develop a plan on the High Street part. And I know that's a very complicated project and not part of this, but I know there's a lot of sensitivity once you get north of Randolph up there. So
And I think we're going to be successful in that with the Wayne County, Oakland County Drain
Yep.
Authority, again, as a cooperative effort, and that bridge or culvert, going up High Street, everybody, it was on the plan and then some money got taken away. We're looking at that. I'm personally pretty fired up. This is just one piece. You've heard all the other activities on Ford Field. We have a Vista, we have DTE gonna bury the wires so you can actually see down there, $1.4 million they're putting into that. We have a new entryway, as we just talked about, a new staircase, bathrooms, playground area. This is $5.2 million of grants that we have gotten piece by piece. I'm pretty fired up. This in itself is outstanding. As part of the whole, it'll be unbelievable. I think that whole area, probably a half dozen placemaking areas just down there at Ford Field, which will be new. So thank you for all the work on this.
I just want to make sure, just to put it out there, if you had more money, would this be the same plan you would do, or is this just the least expensive or the best plan?
I feel like this is the best plan.
Okay.
I would not suggest you invest any additional funds into that culvert outside of what we're doing currently. And I really like the solution for the pools and weirs. I am going to trust my engineers, and so I hope they had their accurate calculating caps on. But yes, I think this is a great plan.
Laura, just adding to that, and it feels like it was 25 years ago that I first attended a Ford Field Task Force meeting.
You're so young.
We did a walkthrough on Serenity Point. We did a review of the riverbank stabilization. This was actually highlighted as one of the key priorities during that. And it's amazing how similar, now granted, at that point, we didn't realize that we were going to be able to get the $560,000. So it's opened some options, but it's amazing how similar what was envisioned and what was decided is like what the team needed, what we thought would really be the priorities within, how that's come to fruition as part of this. So kind of as the mayor highlighted, when you think of the number of projects at Ford Field, it's really exciting that we're getting a shovel in the ground, and it's pretty incredible that this is gonna happen.
So
I did want to remind council, we have submitted another request for community funds for the High Street Bridge this year.
Okay.
We haven't heard on that yet, but we did submit a request for funds for that.
Are we
project this
officially
year.
able to do that as a bridge, or are we still caught in the culvert versus bridge funding battle?
I think it's a bridge.
yeah,
I know that was
a culvert to a bridge. It's a culvert to the.
Stay strong when.
Yep, stay
It
strong.
looks like a bridge to me.
Fingers crossed.
It looks like a bridge.
I mean,
It is a bridge.
that is, we recognized that as an urgent need
Mhm.
several years ago.
Right.
But nobody, it's not attached to a park.
Right.
It's not, so it.
But it's part of the Randolph
So
drain.
we keep getting
Wayne
turned
County-
down for
Wayne County
grants. and
Authority.
We simply.
Well, we
not
really
do it
tried
ourselves.
to focus this request on the fact that it's the primary emergency access route to Allen Terrace as well as to the school.
Yes.
And that currently there isn't any pedestrian access down that road. And so we really tried to hit on that in this particular submission. And so we're hoping, but we haven't heard.
And we even have grants out there with SEMCOG and the state and the county. We just got a grant for $600 and some thousand in the past day or so for lead pipes and the review of that. We're doing waterworks here, which is great. We are on every grant known to mankind because we know we need that. We don't have it yet, and different grants around for it. As I say too, this would be the biggest thing we've ever done. There's 4 or 5 projects within it, but we have all these other things going on at the same time. So thank you for organizing that and really managing all these projects within Ford Field. Appreciate that. Good. Thank you.
So there's a motion. on
Okay,
here.
and you are looking for that motion. Before we do that, though, I'm going to have anybody in public would like to speak. I appreciate you want to get that motion in. Is there anybody that would like to, any comments on this? It's great. Go. So you'd have to just come up to the mic so they can hear you at home, Steve. So right there at the mic, again, name and address.
Sure. Steve Pecon, 611 Ashley Court. I want to pose a question if I may regarding that. We live up off Randolph Creek. And I'm kind of comprehending all this, but I do wonder because when we got a heavy flow, we got a very wide creek behind us, very wide. And it seems like even that section needs to be dredged. So I'm curious, is there some anticipated backflow? I mean, from what you said, it sounds like no, but we have a problem already. So it's.
Right. It's a great point. So my opinion on this is not Q&A, but the drain authority knows all the way back. I don't think there's gonna be any back pressure on that, but
Yeah.
things need to be done all the way down, all that Randolph drain, all the way to that. That is not in this scope, but that is part of the Randolph Drain Authority, which is Wayne County and Oakland County. They know once this is done, the attention all the way up to Taft Road, all the way into that drain right now. So I've walked that, and it's really dry when it's not doing, the flow, but walk it when it's going wild. You have to put the waders on. So, yep, appreciate that.
You could surf on it.
Yep, we'll let you know. Good. Any other comments on the Randolph drain? Going once, going twice? Good. So now you are looking for a motion today. The motion is in your package in front of you to go forward. I'm looking for that motion to.
I can take a shot at this one.
Go right ahead.
I move to grant permission to the Randolph Street Drain Drainage District, its representatives and or its contractors to enter and use Ford Field Park West temporarily to perform the work associated with the Randolph Drain Improvement Project and authorize the city manager to sign a temporary use ingress and egress letter in a form approved by the city attorney.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
I'll support.
Okay, we have support from Councilperson Laura Janetti. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Your motion is approved. Get those pools going. Okay, let's go on to section B. 9B will be the minutes from June 3rd. We moved up on the agenda and you have some suggestions more than scribble on the.
Yeah, there is a scribble edit on page 6, but that is on page, so my change, actually, it's on page 5. And it's the second bullet.
Okay.
And the second bullet wasn't there. So, and this is a summary of what I
Okay.
said.
Okay.
So it's just, and by the way, for the clerk, the ad can be taken out. That was just a note. Okay. So that is on page 5.
She'll work with you, Evan, right?
No, it's just removed the ad.
okay,
That was
remove
just
it.
to guide the change.
Okay.
And then the other was on page 7, under D, council comments, the first one.
Mhm.
It isn't any longer, but I just edited the words that were there to reflect what I said.
Okay. Great.
And page 6 was just saying something was attached because it was copied from the communication and I just edited it because it's not attached.
Great.
That's all. It's a scribble.
And do you have a copy of those comments? Great, good. I have nothing to add or delete from that. Anybody else from the minutes from June 3rd, I believe? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to go forward with those
I move
changes.
to approve the June 3rd, 2024 City Council regular meeting minutes as amended.
Great, so we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion?
Support.
Okay, we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. You have some minutes. Work with Barbara Morosky Brown on that, Mayor Pro Tem. So now we are going to briefly just go downstairs. This is not going to be very long. It's just a question. So if you want to stay here for 5 or 8 minutes, we will be back. So we have to go to the other room. It's a little stuffy in here. Our power went down, so the air conditioning is catching up here right now. So we need to bear with us. We hope it's a little cooler downstairs. Maybe not. We don't know if that's, but
We need a
so
motion.
I am looking at, before you get too excited over there, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed door session. Do we have that?
Motion to enter closed door session pursuant to MCL 15-268-1H to discuss an attorney-client privilege memorandum that is exempt from disclosure pursuant to MCL 15-243-1G.
Support.
So we have a motion properly supported. Any other discussion on that motion? I need a roll call vote if you could do that.
Carter,
Yes.
Janetti,
Yes.
Krenz,
Yes.
Morosky Brown,
Yes.
Turnbull.
Yes, good. We are going into closed door. We'll be right back. Looking for a motion to come from closed session back into open session. Do I have that motion on the table?
So moved.
Okay, do we have second for that motion? Support?
I support.
Okay, so we have a motion properly supported to go back into open session. I would like a roll call vote on that if I could, Clip.
Janetti,
Yes.
Krenz,
Yes.
Murowski Brown,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes,
Carter,
Yes.
excellent. We are back into open session right now. So from that, I am looking for a motion from the closed session to go forward. Do we have that motion?
Yes, I move to accept the recommendation of the city attorney and grant the city manager authority to execute all necessary related documentation in a form approved by the city attorney.
So we have a motion. Do we have support for that motion? Support. Okay. Any other discussion? Why don't you just do a roll call vote just for me? Thank you so much.
Krenz,
Yes.
Murowski Brown,
Yes.
Turnbull,
Yes,
Carter,
Yes.
Janetti.
Yes.
good. It passes. So now we will go on to the end. I told you to hang on. So mayor and council communications, thank you for hanging in there tonight. I told you we'd be back on a timely basis. A lot going on in town right now. If you were downtown over the weekend, fabulous weather. That always helps. You know, Friday, Saturday, concerts going on. It was great. A lot of things going on in town, whether it's the Downs development, whether it's a Riverwalk, whether Ford Field we just heard about. We have 6.5% of all of our citizens involved. I thank you for being involved. We can do the things we're doing with grants and with different companies and private and commercial activities because of all the support we're getting. And most of that support is our citizens. So I just wanted to thank all of you. We'll have another meeting before the 4th of July. Gear up for that. If you're around tomorrow night, Debbie Dingle is in town for an infrastructure town hall right next door. I think it'll be interesting. Questions that you might have from her from a national basis. 5:30 to 7 o'clock right next door. They wanted it in the town. Do we have any township people? But we thought it would be better right here in the city. So we will have some of the township people. We love the township people. All are welcomed. Absolutely. So we will be next door tomorrow, 5:30 to 7. I look forward to having you there. I'll see you there. Anything else from council members tonight?
Mine will be 30 seconds. First off, congratulations to the Northville High School baseball team, which won the Division I
Absolutely.
state championship.
Yeah, state champions.
And I will also add, not quite as exciting, but sustainability will be meeting next Monday on June 24th.
Standing up, wave in the back.
There we go. And also, I know we talked about Serenity Point today. On June 27th, we will also be getting together. The Playground Committee will be meeting for a citizen engagement session as well. So hope to see many of you at that as well.
Excellent. Super.
I'll follow up on announcements. Just a reminder that on Wednesday, the Historic District Commission will be meeting early at 6 p.m. For public discussion on the new updated spiffy Historic District guidelines. I'm very grateful that the city sent out a letter to each household in the each home in the Historic District.
Yes.
And I hope people show up. And so.
Anything over here?
Mine was the baseball. I was really
Okay,
excited.
yeah, I know. It's Laura. You got your story. Anything else?
Nope.
Andrew? Great. Again, thank you so much for being here tonight, for waiting it out. Thank you for what you do for the city. I'm looking for a motion for closure for adjournment. Do we have that?
So moved.
Seconded? Great. All in support, say aye. Aye. We're done. Thank you.